Despicable Me characters into their opposites. This is how it works. We take a character from the movie, like Kevin, and he analyzes his 3 key attributes and key colors. Then he flips everything to the complete opposite. Then he prints it out. This is opposite Kevin. I also made a short film to see what it would be like if all these characters were turned into their opposites. Without any further ado, let's get started. Starting with my personal favorite character, Gru, the bald guy from the movie who is honestly very, very scary and looks like a witch, but is super endearing. Alright, Craig, what are Gru's 3 main attributes and key colors? His first is clever, and the opposite of clever is foolish. His second is caring, and the opposite of caring is cold-hearted. His third is determined, and the opposite of determined is lazy. Let's move on to Gru's key colors. His key clothes colors are black, gray, and silver, and the opposite of those would be white, red, and bright orange. His hair color is dark brown, and the opposite of dark brown is blonde. His eye color is blue, and the opposite of blue eyes is orange eyes. Okay, Craig, turn Gru into his opposite using these attributes and colors. Okay, so this is horrifying. I've never seen anything more scary in my entire life, probably. This is gonna haunt me in my dreams, and I'm not okay with it. You would think that he's a lot like his brother because of the way he looks now, but this guy looks evil and depressed. Craig, how would this version of Gru affect the storyline of Despicable Me?
Because Gru is foolish. He would never rise to greatness, always falling short in his ambitions, unable to overcome obstacles or earn respect. His cold-hearted nature would leave him disconnected from others, making it impossible to form meaningful relationships, preventing any chance of redemption or personal growth. If Gru were lazy, he would remain directionless, never striving for something greater, missing the opportunity to change his life and impact others.
Gru is just sad. It's like what his life would be if he never met the orphans, Agnes, Edith, and Margo. Like, he would just be left directionless and he would just grow hair. Craig, you did a great job for the first one of the day. So I'm gonna give this one an 8.5. Now let's add this version of Gru to the poster. That hair's not doing it for him. I would get that cut if I were him. It just looks like a angry rock star. Next is Agnes, the most adorable character from the movie who could never do anything wrong. So let's see what her opposite would be like, because I'm sure it will be interesting. Okay, Craig, what are Agnes's 3 main attributes and key colors? Her first is innocent, and the opposite of innocent is cynical. Her second is sweet, and the opposite of sweet is mean-spirited. Her third is optimistic, and the opposite of optimistic is pessimistic. Now, let's move on to Agnes's key colors. Her key clothes colors are yellow, blue, and magenta, and the opposite of those would be purple, orange, and yellow. Her hair color is black, and the opposite of black hair would be white hair. Her eye color is brown, and the opposite of brown eyes would be blue eyes. Okay, Craig, turn Agnes into her opposite using these attributes and colors. She's out on the streets and she's hanging near some trash. I mean, that is rebellious indeed. Craig, how would this bad girl version of Agnes affect the storyline of Despicable Me?
Because she's cynical, Agnes would never trust anyone, always assuming the worst, making it impossible for her to believe in love or kindness. Her mean-spirited nature would make her difficult to be around, turning people away and losing the ability to bring warmth into others' lives. If she were pessimistic, she would lack joy, never believing in anything hopeful, making the world feel colder and less magical.
Yeah, that would be so sad. She was always like the sweet anchor of this movie, and now like she's like mean and like pessimistic, like always grumpy, looking on the downside. That is accurate to her opposite. So Craig, for this one, I'm gonna give you a 7 out of 10. Now let's add this version of Agnes to the poster. It's so weird seeing a kid with white hair. It just doesn't really look natural. Next is Edith. Honestly, probably the coolest character in the movies and who I aspire to be. Alright, Craig, what are Edith's 3 main attributes and key colors? Her first is mischievous, and the opposite of mischievous is obedient. Her second is fearless, and the opposite of fearless is timid. Her third is adventurous, and the opposite of adventurous is cautious. Now let's move on to Edith's key colors. Her key clothes colors are pink, magenta, and white, and the opposite of that would be greenish yellow, dark green, and black. Her hair color is blonde, and the opposite would be black. Her eye color is blue, so the opposite would be orange. Okay, Craig, turn Edith into her opposite using these attributes and colors. Okay, so this version just looks so scared of something. Like, Edith would never be scared, obviously. Craig, how would this version of Edith affect the storyline of Despicable Me?
Because she's obedient, Edith would never question authority, losing her rebellious spirit and never pushing boundaries. Her timid nature would make her hesitant to take risks, leaving her unable to stand up for herself or others. If she were cautious, she would avoid adventure, missing out on the fun and excitement that make her who she is.
This version of Edith would just kind of be a downside, and she wouldn't really add anything to the movie. She would just add, she would just take away from the movie. And that's extremely opposite. So Craig, for this one, I'm gonna give you a 9. Now let's add this version of Edith to the poster. She does kind of look adorable though. I mean, those eyes, they're so cute. Next, we're doing Margo, the girl who honestly got on my nerves by the way she treated Gru, but how can you blame her when Gru looks like Gru? He's horrifying. So, I get it. Okay, Craig, what are Margo's 3 main attributes and key colors? Her first is responsible, and the opposite of responsible is reckless. Her second is smart, and the opposite of smart is naive. Her third is cautious, and the opposite of cautious is carefree. Now let's move on to Margo's key colors. Her key clothes colors are green, purple, and black, and the opposite of those would be red, yellow, and white. Her hair color is brown, and the opposite of that would be blue. Her eye color is brown, and the opposite of that would be blue. Okay, Craig, turn Margo into her opposite using these attributes and colors. This one is so crazy. Margo really changed. She's basically a completely different person. And her hair is all crazy and blue, like she doesn't really care about it. Okay, Craig, how would this version of Margo affect the storyline of Despicable Me?
Because she's reckless, Margo would constantly put herself and others in danger, never learning the importance of responsibility and wisdom. Her naive nature would make her easy to manipulate, leading to disappointment, preventing her from becoming the strong figure she needs to be. If she were carefree, she wouldn't take responsibility, allowing chaos to unfold and losing the structure that helps her protect those she loves.
Yeah, this is a very opposite version. Everything that she did in that story is like the exact opposite of whatever Margo would do. So Craig, you're on a roll. I'm gonna give you a 8 out of 10. Now let's add this version of Margo to the poster. She does look like she would be kind of fun to hang out with. Before we move on to the 5th character, I need you to hit the subscribe button. Please, I would really appreciate it. Now on to the 5th character, Vector. The character who is honestly the most annoying, but I like him, he's funny. Okay, Craig, what are Vector's 3 main attributes and key colors? His first is egotistical, and the opposite of egotistical is humble. His second would be tech savvy, and the opposite of tech savvy would be tech inept. His third is comedic, and the opposite of comedic would be serious. Now let's move on to Vector's key colors. His key clothes colors are orange, white, and silver, and the opposite of that would be blue, black, and gold. His hair color is brown, and the opposite of that would be blue. His eye color is brown, and the opposite of that would be blue. Okay, Craig, turn a Vector into his opposite using these attributes and colors. Vector. This is a really boring version of Vector. I mean, it still looks like Vector, but it looks like he has been cooped up in a basement for 10 years and hasn't seen the light of day in 10 years. Craig, how would this version of Vector affect the storyline of Despicable Me?
Because he's humble, Vector would never stand out, fading into irrelevance, losing any ambition or sense of competition. His tech-inept nature would leave him powerless, never accomplishing anything significant, making him unable to leave an impact. If Vector were serious, he would lose his defining personality, making the world around him less fun and spontaneous.
Yeah, this version of Vector would definitely make the movie a buzzkill, and honestly, I liked Vector a little bit, but this character, I don't like him at all. Like, what is that? Because he is very opposite, so good job, Craig. So I'm gonna give this one a 6.5. Now let's add this version of Vector to the poster. Yeah, that blue hair is adding nothing. It's absolutely atrocious. I'm sorry, he needs to get it changed. Next is the Minion, Dave. One of the best Minions, but my favorite is Bob. Oh, Bob. This is Bob, by the way. I don't know where he came from. He's, cute though. He's cute. So, what are Dave's 3 main attributes and key colors? His first is loyal, and the opposite of loyal would be disloyal. His second is chaotic, and the opposite of chaotic would be orderly. His third is energetic, and the opposite of energetic is lazy. Let's move on to his key colors. His key clothes colors are blue, yellow, and black, and the opposite of those would be orange, purple, and white. His skin color is yellow, and his hair color is black. The opposite of that would be purple skin and blonde hair. His eyes are brown, so the opposite of that would be blue. Okay, Craig, turn Dave into his opposite using these attributes and colors. Okay, so this is opposite Dave, and honestly, he looks kind of weird, kind of un-minionish, but honestly, it's kind of cute, like Dave. He's actually pulling that hair off. Honestly, I didn't think he would, but he is. Craig, how would this version of Dave affect the storyline of Despicable Me?
Because he's disloyal, Dave would abandon Gru at the first sign of trouble, choosing his own interests over loyalty and leaving his leader without support. If he were too orderly, he would lose his playful spontaneity, becoming robotic and dull, following commands without the creativity that makes him stand out. A lazy Dave would lack purpose, refusing to engage in any missions or antics, making his existence meaningless and taking away the fun he brings to the group.
He could backstab Gru or do something to the orphans. It would be very messed up, but honestly, could be a good twist. I would be there for it. I mean, if anyone volunteers to make that movie, I would watch it. So Craig, for this one, I'm gonna give you a 6 out of 10. Now let's add this version of Dave to the poster. Yeah, he is really pulling off that hair. It looks nice on him. Moving on to Lucy, my fellow redhead who I love with all my heart. She's awesome, honestly. Okay, Craig, what are Lucy's 3 main attributes and key colors? Her first is energetic, and the opposite of energetic would be boring. Her second is skilled, and the opposite of skilled would be clumsy. Her third is loving, and the opposite of loving would be indifferent. Now let's move on to Lucy's key colors. Her key clothes colors are teal, red, and white, and the opposite of those would be orange, green, and black. Her hair color is orange, and the opposite of that would be blue. Her eye color is green. The opposite of that would be red. Okay, Craig, turn Lucy into her opposite using these attributes and colors. This version of Lucy has definitely seen better days. What happened? What Lucy? What? She looks like she's in an office and it's in really bad shape, showing her clumsiness, and it's not looking okay. Craig, how would this version of Lucy affect the storyline of Despicable Me?
Because she's boring, Lucy would never stand out, fading into the background, never inspiring or bringing joy to those around her. Her clumsiness would lead to constant problems, making her unreliable and unable to be the strong presence she was meant to be. If Lucy were indifferent, she wouldn't invest in those around her, leaving no lasting impact and missing the chance to be part of something bigger than herself.
Lucy was such a good character in the movies, and making her like this would make it terrible. She wouldn't be a good character anymore, which means the movie wouldn't be a good movie anymore. And Gru would never find his true love, which is sad. So I'm gonna give her a 5 out of 10. Now let's add this version of Lucy to the poster. She looks rough. Please go take a nap. please, for my sake. Next, we're doing Dr. Nefario, the character who honestly creeped me out in like all of the movies. Like, I couldn't tell if he was on the good side or the bad side. Like, he kind of creeped me out. All right, Craig, what are Dr. Nefario's 3 main attributes and key colors? His first is inventive, and the opposite of inventive would be uncreative. His second is loyal, and the opposite of loyal would be unreliable. His third is grumpy, and the opposite of grumpy would be cheerful. Now let's move on to Dr. Nefario's key colors. His key clothes colors are white, orange, and yellow, and the opposite of those would be black, blue, and purple. His hair is white, and the opposite of that would be black. And he wears goggles, so now he won't wear goggles. Okay, Craig, turn Dr. Nefario into his opposite using these attributes and colors. Okay, so it looks like Dr. Nefario kinda gained some weight and lost some neck, if you know what I mean. Like, where did his neck go? Okay, Craig, how would this affect the storyline of Despicable Me?
Because he's uncreative, Dr. Nefario would never contribute anything valuable, remaining irrelevant and unable to help those who rely on him. His unreliable nature would make him untrustworthy, leading to failure, showing the dangers of lacking commitment to a cause. If he were cheerful, he would lose his edge, becoming a completely different person, missing the balance that gives him purpose.
So honestly, it's pretty good. Craig, for this one, I'm gonna give you a 4 out of 10. Now let's add this version of Dr. Nefario to the poster. This movie is opposite, but he is still creepy. The poster is now complete and it looks awesome. Now let's watch the short film of Despicable Me as their opposites.
One late night, Gru was working tirelessly on his latest invention, a machine designed to turn villains into their opposites, making them good. But Gru wasn't the only one awake. Vector was spying on him, curious about what his old rival was up to. Then, something went terribly wrong. The machine overloaded. A wave of energy spread through the entire house. In an instant, everything changed. Gru, once clever and determined, was now cold and indifferent. Dave, who had been helping, was now lazy and disloyal. Dr. Nefario had turned into a clumsy fool. And upstairs, the girls were now wide awake as their opposite selves. Even Vector had shrunk into a quiet, nervous wreck. But there was hope. Gru had built a fail-safe switch to reverse the effects. How could the new evil Gru possibly make the right choice? Agnes, now grumpy, glared at him. Gru sighed and turned the switch. And just like that, everything was back to normal. And Gru made sure to never make an invention like that ever again.